Here are 10 changes, additions, or maybe just alterations I want to see in Elden Ring Nightreign. Now this is a fantastic game. As someone who wasn't overly eager before it was released, I have sunk an ungodly amount of hours into it on both solo and multiplayer, and it's some of the most pure fun I've ever had with a video game. With that being said, it has a few annoying elements that I think can easily be remedied, and there's more potential for an even better experience with things like the first thing I'd like to see: more enemy variety. This seems quite high up on most people's lists, and if you play a good amount of runs, it's not that hard to see why. For the immense amount of assets FromSoft and Elden Ring specifically have at their disposal, it feels kinda nuts how often you're fighting the exact same things. Whether it's the night bosses, field bosses, or just the mini bosses at every notable location, the pool they pull from is just so shallow. Take the encampments and ruins, these things. They're the ones with an element on them that are quite brief and quick, and there are only a total of 25 total options for a boss. Sometimes you're hitting 5 or 6 of these on a single expedition, and as such it doesn't take many runs for you not only to start seeing every boss that is available to you, but start fighting them multiple times. There's a bit of a curve where at the beginning you're still learning everything, then after a good amount of hours you start to like seeing the same bosses over and over because you know how to quickly and efficiently handle them. And then after a few more hours you're sick of them and just want some variety. And that's not to mention that not every specific location can even have any of these 25. Most are restricted to just one spot. If you go to an encampment, you're probably getting Red Mane Knights or a Leonine. The field boss pool seems even more limited, and I think this is where FromSoft could benefit in several ways from bringing back old assets from Dark Souls. Yes, we all love seeing our old favorite bosses as night bosses, but why restrict them to only that? If the 6 bosses from Dark Souls had never been brought into Nightreign to begin with, then obviously very few people would be clamoring for this. But since they've opened the door to that, why not really take advantage of it? Hell, let's see more Dark Souls enemies just as normal enemies too. This scratches such an itch for both meaningful fan service and variety throughout runs. This is such a deep and illustrious franchise. I find it so silly that this game is struggling with not having enough things to fight. It's the same story with the night bosses as well. I think in the first expedition there's only 2 options for a night 1 boss, the Bell-Bearing Hunter and Demi-Human Duo, and holy hell, I think I got Demi-Humans 9 times out of 10 when I was first getting into the game. Seeing that boss every single time was so frustrating. And I would think if there were to be any expedition people would be spending the most amount of time on, it would be that first one, as they're still learning how the game works. As I'm writing this script, I was playing multiplayer the night before, and we did 3 expeditions against Equilibrious Beast, and we got Centipede Demon for night 1 and Godskin Duel for night 2 all 3 times. Now that's very subjective, but I'm far from the only person talking about this, and I think everyone's been pretty clear that they just need to add in a little bit more variety. That's all. It's weird how many people are calling for a randomizer of a game that should inherently be more than random enough, but I think we've beaten this subject more than enough here. For number 2, the ability to sell items. This just feels like something the game should have always featured. In the final area before the Night Lord, do you know how many goddamn times I'm just a couple thousand runes away from a level upgrade? It's so annoying. I've started following a table so I can know how many runes I need to get to my next level. That way sometimes you can dip into the storm briefly and kill a few small enemies just to make up the difference before heading to the Night Lord. But when that's not an option, or my math fails me, maybe selling a valuable item or a weapon whose passive boost you're enjoying would be worth getting from level 13 to 14. Since the first patch, I think Nightreign has a really good distribution of runes throughout your playthrough, so limiting this, even just to that final area, would be totally fine by me. I think they could easily make it work so that every merchant has the ability to sell items though, as the same thought process can apply, and you can only carry so many items and weapons at a time anyways. Plus, sometimes you fell a huge boss late in a run and he drops 3 things with 0 compatibility to your run. This way, a legendary greatsword whose passive doesn't help you at all could help you in the form of those final 1,000 runes you need for an upgrade. Or hell, maybe it just lets you buy another goddamn crap. If they were to add this in, I think it would feel like the most seamless, natural thing in the world. My third thought is one I haven't really seen many other people talking about: an ability that allows you to play better in the storm. Let me explain. As I've gotten more confident with my map traversal and overall skills, I've started to spend more and more time in the storm as I go from location to location. Especially as I travel into the final area, instead of just making it to the tree and waiting, you can do a few things along the way to either just grab some runes or potentially even beat a boss and acquire something useful. I'd say the most common thing I like to try and do as I travel into the final area specifically is hit a church, so I don't have to worry about it after the boss. There are even neat little techs you can do to better last in the storm. Notably, your routing can be a little less straightforward and more based around hitting sites of grace on the way. That way you're always resetting your health and flasks. Same goes for actually getting a church, since the act of picking up a new flask fully reheals you and refills your flasks. Utilizing spirit stream locations as well is something you can take advantage of if you know the map quite well. After a pretty small amount of time, however, the storm just starts dealing damage that you cannot remotely keep up with. I get that it would be too overpowered to be able to spend as much time in the storm as you want, but as it is now, it just seems too punishing. I like the idea of the storm being high risk, high reward, which to be fair, at the moment it is, but it's just weighted too far on the risk side for me. And I think there are a few neat things they could do. One would be a character's passive ability, perhaps a new one added in a future update, which could center around either the team taking reduced damage from the storm, or the character with a passive could have a ring around them, where if the players stay within that ring, they don't take damage. I think that second option could work even better as a rare item you find on your runs, or even a relic you can just equip beforehand. And in either case, it would allow you to enter the storm for the first time and not take damage, but once you exit the storm, that item breaks and can no longer be used. I'm really curious if anyone shares my thoughts on this, since I haven't really heard many people talking about it. Is this a really neat idea, or am I just an idiot who doesn't want to play the game by the rules? Please let me know in the comments. I think there's something here. I've run it past a few people, and I've gotten pretty good reception so far. In fact, please feel free to comment anything, Nightreign, Elden Ring, Souls, or whatever you want down below. It helps the channel a ton, and I love to hear everyone's thoughts. Subscribe if you like this sort of content and want to see more as well. Alright, sorry, off to number 4, which revolves around our in-game currency, Merc, which is very limited. As it stands, you can only really buy relics or new outfits. Now, relics are a very cool system, but a very chaotic one to try and optimize. I've put over 100 hours into just playing Iron Eye, and even still my relics are far from perfect, with second or third abilities that barely matter. I only use that relic in particular because one of its abilities is so worthwhile that I don't really care what's attached to it. So a system where you could maybe re-roll different bonuses would be really cool. Say you got a relic where the top ability was one you wanted to keep, but the other two were useless. You could spend Merc to re-roll one or even both of those abilities and keep going until you got something that was at least of some value. Where the outfits are concerned, I think we just need more of them, and in fact, I'd like more to be tied with what you actually do in the world. Things like defeating X amount of great enemies, acquiring a certain amount of runes in a run, basically any type of challenge you could imagine, there could be an accompanying outfit reward. Which actually made me think of a neat idea. Number 5, the concept of in-game challenges. Yes, outfits could be a reward, but what about different starting weapons too? The ability to alter or change your passive? Starting items? Things like I mentioned above could be the challenges for acquiring these, and a game like Nightreign has basically endless amounts of potential challenges. Runs not feeling different enough from one another is a complaint I hear a lot in the community, and this would alleviate that tremendously if you started expeditions with certain goals. They could be as varied as humanly possible and could even award you with Merc that you then spend to unlock those rewards, thus making Merc even more valuable. To piggyback off that last idea, another thing in-game challenges could afford you is the ability to add or remove weapons from your potential pool of options. Let's take greatswords for example. There are 22 total in Nightreign. Let's say you hate some of them and want them removed from your pool of potential drops. I introduce to you the humble in-game challenges. You can acquire and spend Merc to remove some from your table, and what's even more exciting is the ability to add new weapons to your pool, perhaps some newer weapons the game doesn't even yet feature. You could even complete more in-game challenges to give certain weapons slight odds boost so they'll drop more frequently, and pairing well with this idea is number 6. Give us more Shadow of the Erdtree weapons. And hell, while you're at it, how about some Dark Souls ones too? I won't speak on this too much since I'm pretty sure you guys get the general thought process by now. More variety is better. When it comes to things like Dark Souls weapons, it would just be incredibly cool. And when it comes to things like the DLC weapons, I'm just surprised they weren't included to begin with, especially considering how great so many of those DLC weapons are. These assets already exist, and although I don't entirely know what I'm talking about, I can't imagine they'd be that tricky or complicated to include. Let me use the Euphoria, goddammit. I'd imagine this is pretty likely to be featured in future updates and even DLCs. They added the notable Remembrance Hippo and the slightly less notable Demi-Human Swordmasters, so I think that's their way of telling us perhaps there will be more Shadow of the Erdtree on the way. My prior 2 points, and many of them so far in this video, revolve around making runs feel more distinct and unique. And what better way to achieve this effect than with more maps? Limveld is great, and the Shifting Earth events do offer some variety, but I think it's fair to want entirely new maps at some point too. I think much of Limveld's map is perfect in terms of overall size, distance between certain landmarks, and overall traversal options. So using it as a blueprint for additional maps would be great, just changing things like hills, climbable walls, spirit streams, field boss locations, sites of grace. Basically, the thought process behind the map is extremely solid, so just utilize that same knowledge to create 1 to 3 more. You've got whole Elden Ring areas like Caelid, Mountaintops, Farum Azula, and Altus Plateau that get no representation outside of infrequent Shifting Earth events that don't even really affect the entire map. That's not to mention Shadow of the Erdtree as well, and if they want to get crazy like everyone wants them to, add in Dark Souls as well. You don't need to add in whole areas, just scenery and aesthetics. Like I said, the foundation of Limveld is great, just a reshaping and a new coat of paint would do wonders, and from there they can make it as different and unique as they'd like. Areas where you can change your weapon's status. As an Iron Eye main, and yes, I know you can use the starting bow and equip a relic with the status you want, then simply upgrade it, but the only relics I've ever gotten with status are Holy and Lightning. Boy, I sure do wish there were a way to reroll relic boosts. Anyways, as an Iron Eye main, it can be so tricky to get the right status. Most mini-bosses don't even drop a bow to begin with, so heading to the only 2 poison areas on the map and coming up empty on both in the first few minutes of your run, well, that really sucks knowing that you're most likely going to have to finish that run without the desired status. For some bosses, it's a nice benefit at most, but for others, it feels goddamn mandatory. I like the idea of set locations on the map, having places where you can interact with it and change the status, but I think it would be a little too overpowered if you could change any weapon to any status imaginable. Maybe there's only one of these locations on every map and it can only be changed into the weakness of the boss? Maybe it's not even a spot that drops on every map, it's more like the rare merchant where you have to keep your eye out for it, and you only get it once in a while. Something time consuming, like the process towards upgrading a weapon to legendary would be perfect. And yeah, I think tying it to some sort of expedition event or rare spawn would be perfect. And never mind, scratch all of that. Gems. Just gems that can be inserted into any weapon, overriding the current status and adding in the new one. Same idea with it being a random totem drop from defeating bosses. Maybe it isn't guaranteed, but it's a bit more likely. So now you're just boosting your odds of either getting the desired status already on a weapon, or you get the gem and now you just need to find the right weapon later. Or just throw on your current one. Perfect, simple, succinct, delicious. What's next? Rarer events like my beta gem idea would also be a lovely feature to be included. Morgott jumping you shouldn't be like the only thing that happens super infrequently. At least give us one or more bosses who chases us down, one more who pursues us? Go give that video a watch if you haven't already. It turned out great. Subscribe while you're at it. Never mind. Sorry, I said that already. I got excited. I'll shut the fuck up. Illusory walls, teleporting chests, mimics, unique castles, catacombs. Maybe you get to the encampment and see it's already been vanquished by a boss who's just looking at you like this. Anything you can think of that when it occurs or when you stumble across it, it's just a notable and perchance helpful, or even deadly, event that you want to tell your friends about. Give this game some of that nostalgic schoolyard chatter, you know? I swear to God, Ryan, I opened the Everjail and the Crucible Knight was getting his helmet lowered onto his head like Vader's hyperbaric chamber. It happened. No, you did not see the Godskin duo kissing. No, you didn't. Did you? And lastly, number 10. Well, it's actually 2 ideas we'll run through rapid fire. It was 3 ideas, but then I realized my third thing already existed after I'd written, recorded, and edited it. And no, I'm not telling you what it was. I want to warp to a site of grace once per game. Just once. Can even be a site of grace I've already interacted with. Sometimes the map wants to play funny business on you and your routing gets shot to fuck. One teleportation could be cool as shit. Same as the storm shenanigans in terms of it being a one-time use rare item, maybe a passive, or even a weird-ass character's ultimate but it recharges even slower. Pin markers being numbered. Even on solo, sometimes I want to mark where I'm gonna go next, and a little system where you can drop a 1, a 2, a 3, etc. would be great for every game mode, making it easier for whole groups to jump from location to location with synergy. Even with your friends on Discord, it's nice if you can talk about something other than, wait, where are we going next? Sorry? Also nerf these little fucking piece of fucking prime curry, better targeting than Juggernauts in Modern Warfare 2, fucking hitting me when I'm fighting the fucking Night Lord in a different dimension. 10 out of 10 no-notes, I love them. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of any of my ideas, and give me your own ideas too. There are an insane amount of options from teeny tiny quality of life to grand sweeping changes to certain mechanics or moments. I want to hear them all. Please do consider subscribing if you like this stuff and want to help support the channel, and take care. Until next time.